let's talk about all the creatures we're stirring. She not only plays grandma well, but she plays horror well.
Yeah.
And horror is notoriously hard to act in.
I don't need to lose my phone for some rando to find it, say take me home, while I'm at home searching for my phone to get a knock from some stranger who probably is out there with a machete with a scream mask on.
Thank you. I have mixed feelings about Dash Away All.
Yeah.
Only because it is a reimagining or retelling of A Christmas Carol / It's a Wonderful Life, because we wouldn't have It's a Wonderful Life without A Christmas Carol. And it was a kind of a blend of the two.
Yeah.
And there's only so many ways you can retell A Christmas Carol. Like, there's only so many ways you can retell it and reimagine it. And granted, my favorite version will forever be Scrooged. Like, Scrooged, Scrooged. I probably spelled that wrong because I know what I like, but I can't spell to save my life. But that is probably my favorite reimaginings of that film. Though my least favorite is probably the Disney one, because that one is so creepy. Like, that one is so terrifying. But anyway, but this reimagining is actually...
It's actually good.
It's decent.
It's decent.
And it's good because they were able to compress the story into a
very short
runtime, but still hit all the major points of, okay, we're gonna do the three spirits thing, we're gonna do the past, present, future thing. Like, they hit all the points, but they somehow still managed to make it more poignant.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to point out that during each of these intermissions, by the way, the creepy dude that we mentioned at the very beginning, he's still staring at the girl.
Yep.
He's still watching her. And, of course, the boyfriend doesn't really notice, but she also doesn't say anything about it.
But again, he's not really the boyfriend at this point.
Yeah, he's not the boyfriend. The date.
This is the first date. But also at the same time, you have to realize, like, as the night goes on, you can hear this dude's stomach gurgling.
Yeah,
and, like, you can tell that this dude is uncomfortable.
Indigestion. He
like,
had Taco Bell before he got here.
Something's up. But getting into Dash Away All, like, as we already said, it is a reimagining of the Christmas Carol. And it starts off with this dude defacing this light up Santa, and then so you go through the whole story arc of and realizing that this guy is, and of course off the bat, going back and rewatching it, you can tell that he's supposed to be the Scrooge character. Guy's name is the character name is Chet. I remember that one because this dude literally reminded me of, and I hate to say this because it sounds so wrong, but he reminds me of a more fit Seth Rogen. Like, this dude literally sounds like Seth Rogen.
Sounds and partially looks like.
Yes. Like, he is the slender version of Seth Rogen.
Yeah.
I think that is the most politically correct way I can say that. But he also he's got the tendency to like illicit material as much as the characters that Seth Rogen plays, because, like, I'm not going to say that Seth Rogen does engage in illicit activity, but, most of his films, definite illicit activities going on. So, this dude, after having a confrontation with his neighbor, which is hilarious, by the way, because this dude, he channels his inner Seth Rogen, and, like, the guy comes knocking on his door, and he's just like, you know what, can you help my kid out? And like, it's for the Christmas fund. And you know full well that there's no Christmas fund. This dude is keeping the money to add more lights to his house.
The guy could open his door and just getting beamed with lights like it's the police sirens out there.
Like I said, but instead of it being red and blue, it's red and green. It's just like,
You know how they say you can see the Great Wall of China from space? You can see this man's Christmas lights from space. It's like another star.
Ridiculous. That is all I can say. But, he's had this interaction with his neighbor, goes down. Huh?
Multiple times.
No,
you can tell this is a multiple.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Thing with this
is a yearly thing. This is something that happens all the time. So he sits down, clicks on the TV, is flipping through channels. Some weird stuff is on TV, and we all have been in that place where we're flipping through channels. At least if you have cable. But it's becoming less and less rare, or like more and more rare nowadays to sit down and flip through cable. But like all those really weird Christmas specials are on, like that public access television weird stuff. But eventually he stumbles upon, of course, what's on TV? A Christmas Carol. And so, he's watching it. But what's interesting, and it's something that took me 6 watch throughs to finally notice, every time, like once he hit A Christmas Carol, every time he tried to change the channel, the header of the show would change. So of course it'd be like, well, this is the channel that you're on, but then the subtext of what the show is supposed to be would change. And at first it was Chet's life. And then it said, Bob Marley was as dead as a doorknob. He turns the TV off. And then no,
it was Bob Marley is dead as a doorknob, but humbug, and he changed it one more time, and it said enter the door.
And so I jumped the gun on the him interacting with his neighbor. Either which way, though, what's interesting is that something that will fly over most people's head, because at this point, and like I said, in a lot of reviews, at this point, most people have already checked out of this film, and they're just trying to get through it to say that they watched the film. At this point, I was becoming more and more invested in this film, because I was like, we've already seen 2 amazing shorts.
Yeah.
Personally, I really like A Christmas Carol, so I was like, well, how are they going to reimagine this at this point? And so, it says answer the door. He goes, has the interaction with his neighbor that we already described, comes back and decides, you know what? I am going to be that bah humbug, and I'm going to do myself a bump of the sniffy dust.
He's doing a line.
He's doing a line of the sniffy dust. So he does one line, and then when he comes back up, oh, no, I didn't jump the gun on the neighbor. I didn't jump the gun, because the neighbor interaction happens
earlier.
And
then when he opens the door the second time, there's nobody there.
There's nobody there, but but when the TV says answer the door, there's a wreath on his door. He gets the wreath, and that's when it has the note, you'll be visited by 3 ghosts.
Yeah.
There we go. So I wasn't wrong. My memory is better than I thought. But anyway, so
did he call his girl before he did the line?
He did. He did that in between. He did that. So he called the girl, and this is again where we're gonna gloat on the filmmaking.
Yes.
So he calls either his girlfriend or the booty call. I think she's the booty call.
It's somebody that he likes who we don't know.
It was a booty call.
Yeah.
He talked about eating sushi and doing illicit activities to this girl, and she was definitely a booty call. We're gonna put that out. She was a booty call. But the cool thing is in that
small little scene,
there's this really cool camera move they do, and Kaz and I this is where we differ in opinions on how they did it. As a filmmaker, I think that it is more than plausible that they did this in camera, because the girl is standing here. Well, here.
So, say she's right there in front. There's a wall there.
There's a wall, and then further back here is where the mother's in the kitchen cooking dinner. Now, what Kaz is saying is that is not possible to do in camera. What I said that it definitely is possible if they had the aperture open up to maybe somewhere between f/15 and f/22. That at that point you're pretty much in infinity focus range. Both of these could be in focus at the same time. And if you're filming on either a 35 millimeter or a 50 millimeter lens, the daughter would be in a bust up shot, and the mother would be in a more 3/4 shot, and that's exactly what you got. So I'm like, I think that it was done in camera. Kaz's opinion was, on the other hand,
I think
slightly different.
Yeah, I think it was shot in two separate shots where she's on one shot and then they edited in the other shot. Just because, kind of like how he said, when you look at the daughter, she's bigger than them, and you do get the half cut shot. But the other thing that really puts me off with it is the dimensions of the shot where the mother looks incredibly skewed compared to the shot where the daughter is.
And so, in that regards, if they did it that way, that is something that you see them do in the film. At least one other time.
Yeah.
Actually, two other times. If I want to be serious, if I want to be super technical, you do see it two other times after this, which would be a stitch shot where you film a clean plate of both of your set pieces. Then you film your actors in front of the one set piece. You film your other actors in front of the other set piece. And then in post, whether it is in After Effects or Premiere Pro or whatever your editing software choice is, you stitch those together. Bing, bang, boom. You now have two shots that shouldn't be in focus and two actors that shouldn't be interacting. And as long as they did their dialogue correctly, as long as they made it believable, it's now plausible that what this impossible thing that your brain can't comprehend is actually now possible. So beautiful camera work, whether or not they did it entirely in camera or they did it in post-production. Beautiful work. But from there, that's when we get into our first real sight gag, because at this point, like I said, he's now done a bump of sniffy dust. And when he comes back up, you see the three ghosts that he's going to be visited by looming over his shoulder. He dips down to do another line of sniffy dust. And this sight gag is hilarious, but also terrifying simultaneously, because he comes back up and the sniffy dust has turned to tinsel. Silver tinsel. And, like, it is just all up in this dude's nose. Like,
and he freaks out. I mean, who wouldn't?
Runs to the bathroom
and it's not there.
You know, checking himself out in the mirror. And that is the point that you realize that, the ghosts are here. That was your pseudo wake up. Your pseudo wake up call. And gets to the bathroom. And at this point, he's freaking out. He's like, well, nope, there's nothing in my nose. Opens the bathroom door, sees a figure standing there, shuts the door, and he's like, oh, wait a minute. Oh no. But then that's when you get into one of the funniest scenes.
He makes the best threat ever. He's like, I'm gonna call the cops on you. I have my cell phone. What? You're coming here with a SWAT team? Oh, your ass is now, man. And as soon as he says that, you see his cell phone, slide underneath the door and slide right back.
And it's so funny. But you know, he storms out of the bathroom, and that's when you get your Ghost of Christmas Past thing, even though he technically never interacts with any of the spirits besides the very last one. You know, he gets transported back to the past, and you get to see him as a grown adult in this giant orange onesie that kind of reminded me of Trick or Treat. Like, just a little bit of that Trick or Treat vibe. And again, that's a movie that we will eventually cover on here because I love that movie. But, you know, he's sitting there, and then, like, again, this is where the lighting technique was really interesting, because with that, they gave him top-down lighting, but it was very directional top-down lighting, because generally when people do top-down lighting, they put it in like a giant soft box. They have a bunch of LED light panels, or sometimes they'll put Fresnels in there, but usually it's LED light panels, in this, you know, box that they construct out of metal tubing, and then they'll put a giant piece of muslin over it, and, you know, that gives them this nice soft top-down lighting. Yeah. But what it looks like they did in this scenario was they either used a snoot or they used some type of Fresnel that they could adjust the lens on, and made it very directional, so it's coming right down on him. And then they lit him from the front, probably using a softbox, maybe using a bounce card of some sort, but beautiful lighting on him. But then right next to that, you have the grandparents and the parents lined up on the couch, and that's again, it has some type of top lighting, and then you get a nice side lighting. But as you go from granddad to grandma to mom to dad, you watch as the lighting falls off more and more as it gets further away, and you can also tell that Chet did not have a good childhood. If this is what his childhood was.
We also didn't mention that Chet isn't rich like how in the Scrooge movies are. He's just honestly a normal dude. And at this point, you couldn't figure out why he hated Christmas. But after you see what his family puts him through probably year after year, you start realizing why he honestly just hates Christmas.
Yep. And so at this point, he runs back to the bathroom to get away from that horrible scene, horrible memory. And that's when we get our second mirror shot of the movie, because he's now sitting there looking into the mirror. And what's really cool is that this is if Kaz's theory about how they did the girlfriend mom shot was correct, this is the second time in the movie you get a stitched together shot, because he's standing there looking in the mirror, and then you get that trope that you see in a lot of movies where the figure in the mirror starts doing something completely different than what the actual person is doing. But what's beautiful, what makes this stand out is the fact that this was a tracked dolly shot. And it is oh my goodness, it is beautiful. It is incredible because it's this beautiful slow pan. And a lot of the time when you do stitch together shots like that, you either have to have a remote control dolly, and that is exactly what they had on this, because again, watch the special features. Or you put your camera on sticks, or as in layman's terms, you put it on a tripod. And you film your clean plate, and then you film you film your actors and all that. And so with this, what makes it so beautiful is this slow dolly pan. And it's absolutely glorious, and they pulled off the effect beautifully of having him conversing with himself in the mirror. And I think it's a really nice way to do the Ghost of Christmas Present. Because most time the Ghost of Christmas Present, you get to watch him fly over the town, and they get to see all the other people being happy or being miserable because of him. But in this case, he causes his own misery. And
it's a really cool conversation. He's like, man, screw Christmas. Yeah, you hate it, right? Yeah, we all hate it. Yeah, it's really bad. He's like, yeah, it's a shame that, you're self-destructive to yourself. What? No, I'm not. That's not true. Then why are you doing that?
And then you whip pan over to him, trying to
hang
himself from a tie, and it's just like, where did that come from?
It was such a cool transition.
But it's beautifully done transition, and a technically challenging shoot, because they are shooting
the same guy 3 times.
They're shooting him 3 times. But the other thing is, they are literally in a bathroom, because that's the thing about this film that we haven't touched on yet. Is that because they were on such a low budget, they used their resources to the fullest extent. Like when the credits roll, and we'll get to the credits because there's an interesting thing that comes up in the credits that we definitely want to discuss. But in the credits, you can see they only bought the rights to utilize 2 songs. Everything else, all the composition was done in-house, and the composer did a beautiful job, and I hope to see more scores from him. But the thing is, like, every location that they use, they either have connections to use it, or they had to rent it for a very, very short period of time. And so, like, in the first short, which is the office, like I already mentioned, that is the Blumhouse. That is a legit Blumhouse conference room. The second one, they were filming like right next to a train station.
A train station. They had people in the background.
And they had to be very careful about when they use the drone as to not disturb the neighbors, because they do some beautiful drone shots in that. And then into number 3, the guy's house that they used is a legitimate house, so they're not on a soundstage like most productions, and they just got really lucky because this guy happened to either be a photographer or videographer, and he had a green screen out in the garage that they used to film all of the pickup shots of the
ghost, pretty much
the ghost, as well as the because they do the not ADR, because that's automatic dialogue replacement, but when they replace the screen of the TV
with the Scrooge show that was being played.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the name of what they're referencing. Christmas Carol. There we go. I knew it would come back to me eventually. But yeah, but they do all of their filming on location in this dude's house, uses green screen, uses bathroom, and like you can tell that this guy's bathroom is pretty daggone small.
Yeah. Which still works for the film. It
works beautifully.
Perfect.
Works beautifully. So anyway, now we've been through the Ghost of Christmas Present and get to the Ghost of Christmas Future. He comes out of the bathroom, and next thing you know, the neighbor is banging on his door again, and this time the neighbor is now just a little bit tipsy and wants to talk about some stuff. And
okay, Bill Cosby.
Never, not in a million years. Anyway, bad connotations tied to that. But anyway, but then this guy, the neighbor realizes that, oh my gosh, you stole my Santa. And in a fit of rage, he accidentally kills Chet.
Yep.
No, I have to show you something in the bathroom.
The last time I told somebody that the police were called. Oh, shit.
Chet's sitting there, and like the TV, it's really cool because the TV characters are looking down at him, and they're smash talking.
The TV just starts mocking him, and it's hilarious. It is,
and he's like, "No, somebody will come here to save me." And so the Ghost of Christmas Future is like, "Nope." Points towards the clock, and you see time moving forward, and he's decomposing. The really messed up part about it too
is that the TV is still mocking him.
The TV's still mocking him, and the fact that the good neighbor who caused this never comes back.
Dude bolts. Doesn't call 911. Doesn't call any, like, his girlfriend or booty call. And that's why I think she's a booty call, not a girlfriend. Because she doesn't show up to check on him. Like, and at this point, this dude has been decomposing for several days at this point. And probably the only way he's going to be found is the smell is going to waft over the neighbor's house. But yeah, so, and then, we get a little cameo from Fatty Magoo.
Yep.
Because the TV starts mocking him, and if you don't know who Fatty Magoo is, he's a rat. Because
there's an actual rat.
An actual rat. Because the TV is just like, man, the only thing that is left is fit for the rats. Next thing you know, this rat has appeared on this guy's stomach.
And starts doing the rat thing,
the rat's name is actually Fatty Magoo. Really, really cute.
It's actually really cute.
Yeah, he is super cute. So anyway, fast forward, he wakes up off the floor, and I'm inclined to believe that, of course, just like in any retelling of Christmas Carol, it's all in this dude's head. But I'm inclined to believe that as soon as he did that first bump of sniffy dust, it was probably a lot stronger than he thought, and he passed out. And so, because he ends up waking up on the floor. And so when he wakes up, that's when the real crux of this story hits you like a freight train.
Right.
Because it's crazy, and I'll let because since I've been talking a lot, I'll let
so basically what ends up happening is he wakes up, and the door, he gets a knock at the door, so he goes to check. The very moment, the exact moment that you had just saw where he got into the argument with the neighbor plays out again. But of course, the guy's like, no, just take my money. It's actually really hilarious because he gives this dude
the entire wallet. The entire wallet.
But I think that was the best choice that they could have done, because usually when you watch the Christmas Carol, when they show the future, it's like 2, 5, 10 years in the future. We're just going to jump numbers here. This he was going to die literally seconds the moment he woke up from his sniffy dust adventures. Mm-hmm. He was going to die that moment.
And then hilariously, he goes outside and starts doing dirt angels, because this entire film was filmed in California, so it has no snow. So that was a weird burp. Anyway, but he ends up going out and doing dirt angels or grass angels, and it again. So at this point, in the film. We've already seen 3 tableaus.
Yeah, and at that point, it does this really cool transition into fading onto the people back into the black box of the dude. It's a
beautiful match cut.
Same thing.
Beautiful match cut.
Like, it was great.
So at this point, we've seen 3 tableaus, and just like any good theater production, you have to have an intermission. And in this intermission, we are now following our wraparound characters.
Yep.
And this is where stuff starts getting really weird. And it starts getting weird for our wraparound characters, because that's when you realize that something is really off.
Yeah.
Not only because the theater is creepier than you expect, and this is, again, the point where they do the stitching of frames together.
Yeah.
Because the
ticket
girl,
Daphne goes up to to get a water, and the ticket girl who you saw in the very beginning, who had RBF, which we'll probably put something.
Oh yeah, we'll put it down here because we cannot say that. We cannot say that out loud.
But she looks at her and she's like, and then you see a second one of her come out, hand her a water. She hands the girl a water, and she walks back in. You're like, hold on, twins?
Yep.
That's kind of creepy. And at the same moment she gets her water, the creepy old dude who's been watching her throughout the entire, throughout each set play comes directly behind her. And he doesn't come behind her at like this distance. No. He's right on her. Right up on her. And grabs a thing of popcorn and then just still staring at her and walks away. And the very creepy thing is that you don't even see him eat the popcorn. He just grabs it. He just grabs it and he's just watching her and leaves. So she goes to find her date, and
he's sitting in the bathroom on a phone call, and he keeps saying that it's work, but you can tell from what's being said that it's not. It's really not exactly work. Something is hinky. Something is really hinky. So you get back into the theater, and at this point, the theater's thinned out of people quite a bit. Like it is started to thin out because I guess people are realizing that avant-garde theater isn't really their thing.
Yeah. They're like, we came here for theater, but this is that above the bar that we're not here for.
And also, it is Christmas Eve night. And,
so they probably gone home.
Yeah, either which way. But that is when we get into the fourth. There we go. But that's when we get into our 4th tableau, vignette, whatever you want to call it. Our rose such a clatter. Now, reading reviews. Reading and watching YouTube reviews. People hate this short film. Now, I, on the other hand, really, really like it. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's Kaz's favorite.
Oh, it's my all-time favorite.
Now, when I first watched it, and mind you, I've watched this 6 times. When I first watched it, I didn't like it. But that's because I did not understand what the filmmakers were going for. But that, my friends, is why we watch with commentary. This is why we watch with special features. Because if you are not versed in all styles of filmmaking, then what the McKendrys were trying to do, right over your head.
Yep.
And of course you're not going to like it. Of course you're not going to understand it because a lot of people said, oh, this is the one that it felt like it just ground to a halt. Like it ground the film to a halt. It was a slog to get through. No, it
wasn't. Not at all.
And that is because the McKendrys were going for something very, very specific, which was giallo style filmmaking. And the thing is, a lot of people don't even realize they've seen a giallo style film. And like, if you watch the first Friday the 13th, Halloween,
Nightmare on Elm Street,
you have seen giallo influences. Yes. Even if you've never watched a giallo film, without giallo, we would not have the horror that we know and love today.
We wouldn't have these slashers. We wouldn't have this
like
extreme amount of gore, violence, and whatnot that is in horror would not have existed without giallo.
So after this, go look up giallo filmmaking. Go educate yourself, and then go back and rewatch even if you don't rewatch the entire film, rewatch A Rose Such a Clatter with the lens that it is a giallo film. Because when you watch it through that lens, it completely makes sense. So let's actually get into this, and then we'll continue to praise the giallo genius that is going on here. And again, I didn't realize that they were going for a giallo style until I watched this with the director's commentary on. Because, like I said, at first I was like, it was jarring to me as well. It was like, this is weird. Why did they include this editing style in there? But once I figured out they were going for that particular style, I have so much respect and so much reverence for the McKendrys.
Yeah.
And it is now, I wouldn't say it's my favorite short out of all of them, but it definitely deserves some praise and respect, and a lot more praise and respect than it has been getting on the different forums and circles. So it starts out with this dude driving his car down a country road, listening to down tempo country.
I don't care. I don't like it.
What's wrong with down tempo country?
Country is already sad enough. You're going to slow it down? I had to work at a place who used to play down-tempo country at 5 o'clock in the morning when open.
Oh, no.
No.
But again, the guy is just like, nah, we ain't doing this down-tempo country as well. Changes the radio station.
He changes it too.
And so this dude, whose name is Guy, like, yes, that is his name. His name is Guy.
I don't consider that a real name.
It is a real name.
It's not a real name.
I had a teacher named Guy. It's a real name.
The only guy that I'll ever accept is Guy Sensei.
What about Guy Fieri?
No.
But so Guy is a photographer, and he's busy looking at the photographs of this girl named Susie. And you know what they say? You should never take your eyes off the road, because as soon as you do, something bad happens. And what bad happens? He hits a reindeer. Or a deer. Either which one. He hits some type of antler animal. And that is where the story really starts digging in its roots. That is going to be giallo.
Yeah.
Because as soon as he
actually, the very edit.
Actually, yeah, the edit
that they used to hit the deer, it was immediately giallo.
Immediately giallo. Like, it was such a zoomed in, quick cut. Like, it was very, very giallo. And then once he gets out of the car, you start seeing from the bush just this red tinted view, and you're just like
it's a red POV.
It very much so, like red tinted POV, and that's where I will say the color grading in this segment is beautiful. Mm-hmm. The color grading is absolutely stunning because they make very distinct choices between this is going to be hot, this is going to be cold, this is going to be our neutral regular color scheme. Like what we're filming in right now would be considered a neutral color scheme.
Because there's a lot of color going on with it.
Right.
There's no primary color to it.
We're like, in this segment, the blues are very, very blue.
Yeah.
Then the reds are very, very red. Whereas it's like somebody put an Instagram filter over top of the segment, but that is categorically giallo. Like, giallo was known for its bright, bold use of color and like its color wash. Beautifully done.
Yes. Expertly
done. So anyway, now that we're somewhat done, almost done, not entirely done, singing the praises of giallo filmmaking, he gets out, checks the car, and he's just like, oh, well,
I guess I put it out of its misery.
Exactly. And that's what anybody should do. Like, if you do accidentally hit an animal and it is still alive, I know it's hard to do, but please put it out of its misery. It's good. You're going to make its life so much better to just put it out of its misery.
Instead of letting it suffer.
Yeah. But then what's interesting is that there is something stuck on his light that he doesn't see, but it falls to the road when he pulls away. Keep that in mind. We're not going to spoil this one yet. We're going to spoil it because, this is a review and analysis.
Review.
But we're not going to spoil it yet because the reveal is so worth it. So he keeps going on to Mary's house, and not Mary, Susie. He's going on to Susie's house. And he gets there, and the funny thing is, again, low budget filmmaking. This was one of the production guys' legitimate car that he had legitimately crashed, and all they did was put fake blood on it. Yep. And it's hilarious.
They said he went to a drive-through with it.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And so, and then the house that they filmed in was David's brother-in-law's house.
Yep.
Like brother and sister-in-law's house. So like they used their resources and they use them beautifully. And once you get inside the house, not only do you see more Giallo influences with the decor.
The decor, when Susie steps out, she's in very bright colors herself, good makeup.
And he's on the other, exactly. And he on the other hand is in leather gloves and is god-awful turtleneck
sweater. And then, like they mentioned, the leather gloves, that's a huge 80s trope. Biker gloves, whatnot. His sweater vest, the way the chick looked. I was like, this is a step back in time, and I like this.
But, that's very Giallo style.
We also need to talk about...
Yes, the third mirror shot, the third mirror shot of this movie, which is, again, beautifully done. And what makes this one even more interesting is that the mirror that they're filming into is convex. It curves outward.
So the entire image of itself is already distorted. But to fit that distortion...
What makes it even crazier is the camera move. They do this beautiful, beautiful pan.
Yeah, it doesn't pan straight. It has a sweep to it. And you know what's crazier about it, too, is the mirror itself was actually above the guy's head. Like, the way it was convex was showing a top view of the guy's head. So when it pans down, it's like
you're panning in, like, because it pans around to see you, like you see him walking through the door in the mirror, and as it pans, they're panning over to him walking through the door, so and
it's a cool pan on pan.
It's so good. It's so beautiful. It's so well done. Like, that's the thing. Everybody I've seen online is lambasting this film and saying that, they're tearing it apart. And I'm just like, did we watch the same film? Did we watch the same thing? This is so good. It's so good. So anyway, it's so good. But, so, they do that beautiful pan, and then you meet Susie for the first time, and she's like, I didn't want to leave you alone on Christmas. Yeah. And that's when they hear a clatter on the front porch.
At the door. And the best part, this is probably the best sound design out of all of them. Because
at this point, we have seen some questionable sound design in this movie. And I'm saying, the sound is not bad. No. I listened to a reviewer on YouTuber who said, a review on YouTube. I don't know what that first sentence was that came out of my mouth, but I watched a review on YouTube that said that the sound design in this movie was bad. And again, I'm just like, did we watch the same movie? The sound design in this movie was so good.
Yeah.
Like, it is... Do you know how hard it is to film in a bathroom and not get echoes, and film in a house
parking lot.
and film an empty parking lot and not get all this echo and not have to do ADR after the fact? Like, excuse me, did we watch the same film? Like, at this point, the only questionable audio was when the date comes out of the bathroom. Date. And he's got his cell phone, and you hear it vibrate. And
it sounds like it's on a table.
Right. It sounds like it's on a table, not in a hand. And that's the only, at this point, that was the only questionable audio that I had heard. And so I'm just like, my dude, like, what?
But when it came to the knocking at this part in this scene, it was really good because it wasn't a knock. They could have used any kind of stock knocking. It was a knock, scrape.
Yep. And then as soon as they open the door, again, you get that red tinted view. POV. They slam the door, and next thing you know, it's on the roof. And it very quickly moves from the porch to the roof. And so Guy goes upstairs and starts looking around, and he's just like, I'm gonna find this thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find this thing.
Also note, everything that was in the house was in the house. None of it was prop. All of that was already in the house.
Beautifully done. The only thing that they couldn't do that they wanted to do was drop a chandelier on somebody, because that's a Giallo staple, is dropping a chandelier on somebody. But they do their fair share of destruction, quote unquote, of the props that they use. And that is when you get into the first kill of this segment, was when Guy opens the door and then he gets impaled by antlers, and that's when you realize this dude just got murdered by a vengeful Rudolph, because the deer that he ran over was Blitzen. And this is, again, where you get this beautiful flashback to him actually hitting Blitzen, and you go from the heavily color graded view, and when it's like a camera is going off, like as recognition, and when the camera goes off, it switches to the normal color grade, and it's so quick, so well done. But it's so well done, and it's beautiful. Giallo. It's all Giallo. It's so well done. And even his death, it looks so campy. It looks so cheesy, but it is very, very Giallo, because you can see him holding onto the antlers and it looks like he's stabbing himself. But I'm just like, those campy kills are quintessential to Giallo. The extremely tight close-up kill, the extremely tight gory close-up kill is a Giallo staple. So I think I know people don't like this one, but they should. Because they should know their history. They should know their filmmaking history. And this is why I will always advocate for physical media, because physical media will give you the behind the scenes director commentary. It will give you all those little secrets that you want to know, but also need to know to truly appreciate what you're seeing. I'm getting off my soapbox now.
You get to see from the director's point of view and why these choices were made.
Exactly. But it ends. And sadly,
Susie does.
Susie does.
They don't show it, but it does my favorite kind of the camera flash, slow turning camera thing, like the end of Psycho style.
Yeah, because she screams and she flash freezes. Because the thing was, again, you can tell the editor just had fun in this one, because he used this the spinning camera move,
the comic book spin.
Exactly, the comic book spin. He did a glass break edit. He did the blood dripping down. It was very, very campy editing, but it worked.
It is what they were aiming for.
It is exactly what they were aiming for, and beautifully, beautifully done. I applaud you for doubling down and doing something different, and doing something that, and giving recognition to something that is dying and people have forgotten about, and I applaud you.
Then we cut back into the black box.
Yes, we do. We do go back to the black box theater so that we can get into our final vignette, our final wraparound vignette.
And note that at this point, most of the people have already exited the theater, so it's really just our two leads, one other person. But the creepy thing is that the old man who's been staring at the woman the entire time, he's gone. To make it even more creepier, the popcorn that he bought is sitting across the way from where they're sitting, but he was never sitting there. A different couple was sitting there.
Yep.
He was always sitting one row above them, but he's just mysteriously gone.
And this is the only scene that he's missing from, which is interesting. And I want to know why he's missing from that scene, but it's never explained, because at that point you get into In a Twinkling. Now, I would say that In a Twinkling is probably
the weakest.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
I don't think that any of them.
I don't think any of them.
I don't think that any of them are weak. And most people would say that A Rose Such a Clatter is the weakest out of the bunch.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. Not at all. And I honestly don't think that any of them are weak. If I had to pick a weakest, it would be All Through the House.
Yeah, probably honestly All Through the House, only because it's a redone story.
Right, it's a reimagining of A Christmas Carol. So if and like I don't want to pick a weakest because like I think they're all strong.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick a weakest, I would say that is the weakest. But I would say In a Twinkling is the one that subverts the most expectations.
Yes.
And I
actually, the very beginning, if we wanted to jump into it, was already it already
subverted expectations. But I was going to say before we get into it is like, I don't know which one is my favorite. Your favorite is A Rose Such a Clatter, which most people don't like. And I'm torn between The Stockings Were Hung and In a Twinkling. Like, I don't know out of those two which one is my favorite. But I think if I had to choose, I would say that In a Twinkling is probably my favorite, only because of not only the editing and stylistic choices that they make, but also the story. I really like the story of In a Twinkling, and also because of how it subverts expectations. So launching into it, you know, of course, we're back on the black box stage. You see how it's playing out. They zoom in. We get the 4K view. And this guy is walking up to his house with a giant duffel bag, and he's looking at the full moon.
So, like, my first expectation, I saw that, well, when I first saw the guy with the duffel bag, I'm like, okay, maybe he's a robber. And once he looked at the full moon, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he robbed something and something dangerous is hunting after him. Well, then he gets inside and he takes a chain, and so he starts putting the chain around himself, and he grabs a gun. So I'm like, okay.
Not only a gun, he padlocks himself to this chain. And so instant thought is, we're gonna get a werewolf! Yes!
Wrong month. Were-deer.
Were-deer. There we go.
We're getting a were-deer.
But no. But then next thing you know, you hear a knock on the window. He pulls the curtain back, and his friend is standing there. She's like, "Hey, let me in." Gabby. Yes, her name is Gabby. The character name is Gabby. And so he's like, "Girl, you could not have picked a worse night of the year. Like, nah, go away." She's like, "No, we're coming inside." He unlocks himself, opens the front door. Her and 3 friends are standing there on the porch, and they just let themselves in.
The teeth in Christmas.
And you know, so he grabs her by the hand, and he's like, "Girl, like for 10 years, I have not celebrated Christmas because something weird happens every year for the last 10 years."
And she's like, "I'm just here to make sure you don't celebrate it alone."
And then, of course, you know, they're sitting on the bed with all the chains, and like one of the friends comes into the room and is just like, he's looking at the chains and thinking that something hinky's gonna, well, not kinky is about to go down. And she's like, "No, we're gonna talk about this later.
We'll talk about this later. You guys get the thing set up. I'm going outside to get a smoke."
And so she goes outside to get a smoke, and you see what looks like to be like the North Star until it gets brighter, and then it splits off into 3. And that's when you realize, oh, wait a minute, we're going the sci-fi route. Like, yes!
It hit Twilight Zone so fast.
Twilight Zone, X-Files, like, it hit it so quickly, but does it so beautifully. And this next part, this
oh my
next
God.
part, this editing, so... Like, if I was not already married, I would want to marry your editor because, like, oh, so good. Because, like, the aliens, the way they abduct is like they're pulling you into a TV.
Yeah.
And, like, the editors and the directors accentuated this fact because the static shows up on the screen.
Yep.
And at this point, we've been watching the entire film in 16:9 letterbox with bars at the top and bottom. The bars pull away. Then the
sidebars.
The sidebars. No, not even the sidebars. At this point, we're already at full screen, 16:9, completely filled with a picture.
Yeah.
And then the sidebars close in, so that is 4:3.
You're literally in a picture box. You're actually
not even in a picture box.
You're in the old school TV.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's the old school picture box.
And I am just like I saw that editing move, and like I lost my mind. Because it is it's so well done. It's so pretty. Like that editing trick was so good. I loved it. Loved it. So, at this point, the other cool thing that they do is that the remainder of this short is done in black and white. And that is already something that is hard and taboo to do because you have to light a scene completely differently for black and white than you do for color.
Yeah.
So from a technical standpoint, you've just added like 10 extra steps
to your editing process.
Not even the editing process, just to film this properly. You've just added like 10 extra lighting steps to make sure that this is lit properly, evenly, and beautifully. And the thing is, you're not filming on a soundstage. You're filming in a legitimate house, which, when you listen to the director's commentary, was their house before they sold it.
Yep.
Like, well, this was Rebekah and David's actual house before they sold it. And I'm just like, so you're working on a practical set. And so they are more than likely using some type of softbox or some type of beauty dish or something to make this work. But at the same time, you're probably mixing in practical lighting that you already have in your home. Mixed it beautifully, and not only that, you're doing this in black and white. And not only that, in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
So you had to capture everything right.
Well, exactly, because it's a completely different way of thinking, because we are so used to filming in 16:9 for 1080p or 4K.
Yeah.
But 4:3, that is like 360p. It's a completely different framework than what our brains are used to now that we've lived in the technological digital age for so long. So having to completely retrain your brain for that filmmaking, I applaud. So let's actually get into the short now. So at this point, old girl's been abducted by aliens. And
she walks back in. She doesn't walk into her room. She just appears.
No. So the stat, like, you do this, it's something that if it's a blink and you'll miss it thing.
Yeah.
The static flashes the first time. The static flashes the second time, and you can see the outline of Gabby in the static.
Yeah.
And then it flashes the third time, and then she walks through the kitchen door. And this is when stuff goes off. Well, it doesn't go off the rails yet, but starts to go off the rails because the friends are all sitting at the table, but they are very...
Hello, Gabby. Merry Christmas. Would you like to take a seat? Sure. I guess I'll take a seat at the only chair.
Would you like to say a blessing?
I don't know a blessing.
Would you like to say a blessing?
I too don't know a blessing.
And so at this point...
and it's so creepy because they're just...
They're just staring, and it's just this creepy, wide-eyed staring, like they're blinking, but it's all very mechanical. But it's like, okay, this is weird, but it hasn't gone off the rails yet until the guy's like,
look, I gotta go
to the bathroom. Yeah.
So she's stuck here.
Remember that gun that we mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so she's stuck here talking to her so-called friends. They're like, you guys are really weirding me out. Is everything okay? Boom, 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 boom. And she's like, oh my God.
And then in the most deadpan delivery, what did you do? And then he responds, not what you think. And then
you see all their
kind of like with Reanimator, they sit back up. And then the blood, instead of just the blood fading away, it statics away.
It turns into static. And it stays on the screen. Like when they move and like when the characters have to like do their very robotic movement and their heads would move or their bodies would move very robotic, you would still see the static of where the blood splatter would be in the background.
And finally it fades away from the background, but like you can still see the bullet hole on like the shirt or on the head. And then she's just like, Gabby's just like, nah, this is too weird. I'm leaving. But as soon as she tries to leave, she comes right back through the same door that she originally appeared through.
I like to call it the Pac-Man effect. When you play the original Pac-Man and you go through one wall and end up on the opposite side, you're still in the same room.
And at this point, the entire scene is reset. There's no more bullet holes or wounds on the clothes. Everything's being back at the table again. He's sitting back at the table because at first he was standing, and she's like, what's going on? And then that's when the friends, quote unquote, start getting more aggressive. Would you like to sit at the table? I guess
with the only chair.
And then my favorite and funniest line: would you like to say a blessing? They're continuing on. They're having a conversation because Gabby's trying to figure out what's going on. Yeah. The guy is trying to explain to her what's going on, and while they're having this conversation, Would you like to say a blessing?
Jesus Christ!
Jesus Christ, Mary! Amen!
Would you like to say a blessing? Jesus Christ, Mary. Amen.
A week every single time. Like, I've seen it 6 times, and that line will make me laugh out loud every single time. It's so good.
Oh my god. It was delivered so, oh my goodness.
Because it's the deadpan of, would you like to say a blessing, compared to the juxtaposition of her yelling at them, and then there's just
all three of them,
amen, simultaneously. Freaking hilarious. And then they pull the cover off this turkey, which it's a cooked
turkey stuffed with candy.
Actually, fun secret that I'm gonna let you in the audience in on. The turkey wasn't fully cooked. They literally put it. So they put it in the oven for like 30 minutes,
so that it should get that weird browning.
Just enough to brown it. But like, if you look really closely at the leg, you can still see pink. Like next time you watch it, look at the leg. Ew. There's still some pink in there. Of course, gross. They made sure that I
don't even like turkey.
Yeah, but they of course made sure that nobody on set actually ate it to make sure they didn't get sick.
Yeah, that's why they're using all 8 of their forks.
All 8 of their forks.
The table is set with nothing but forks, and we're grabbing the candy with forks. I'm like,
exactly. But also, this is the first point that another really creative filming technique comes in, and the turkey is the only thing in the scene in color.
Yep.
So let's because this is going to be a reoccurring thing in this in a twinkling, and that is the rotoscoping.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, your editor is a god. He is a king. Like I know I've said that I'm Christian, but like, and it's like, you know,
I praise it.
I cannot. So I can't in good conscience call him a god, but like,
I would do it. You're a god.
This man is just amazing because the amount of time this person spent rotoscoping is insane.
Yeah,
because the first thing they do is rotoscope the turkey. Okay, that's fine.
A little bit more story continues through.
Great, wonderful.
They start opening presents.
Right,
and,
so at this point, they've gotten up from the table.
Yeah.
Because they've quote unquote eaten at this point. They've eaten their sweets. And Gabby is still freaked out.
She's like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. Because she remembered opening the door earlier and seeing the TV station kind of thing. It was a Santa with a bunch of aliens around.
Exactly.
She hadn't gone through it that time. But she's like, you know what? I saw it before. I'm just going to leave.
She's like, I'm going to brave the outside.
Comes out the closet.
Again, funny editing. She walks out the front door and like Kaz just said, comes out of the closet.
Spins right back out the closet. And they're like, do you want to open gifts? At this point, she's just given up, just like the guy. The guy has been through this for 10 years.
For 10 years. So she gives up. And she opens
the first present, and it's a sweater, but it's also in color. And when it pans back to them, all 3 of them are immediately wearing the same sweater.
Mm-hmm. And so, again, I'm going to point out the rotoscoping in this. This is where it gets insane. Because not only does one of the girls have long hair that falls on top of the sweater, so you have to rotoscope around the hairs that fall onto the sweater. When the guy opens his next present, it's a alien snow globe, and you can see through the snow globe in one of the shots. And they took the time
to rotoscope
through the snow globe. And then in one of the shots, when you first see the snow globe, before they rotoscope through the snow globe, he's holding it in his hands, and behind his hands, the aliens are out of focus.
Yeah.
But they still took the time
to rotoscope.
And mind you, it looks like this was filmed at like f1.8. So it's like super blurry. Like the bokeh, like it's creamy bokeh. It's beautiful bokeh. They took the time to rotoscope the bokeh. Come on now. Like, yes, the attention to detail. Yes, love it. Appreciate it. Yes. Insane, but appreciate it. So, anyway, at this point, my mind's already been blown by the rotoscoping, but I'm still invested in this story. And this is the point that Gabby's just like, well, why don't you ask them what they want?
No, she did that earlier.
No, it was after they were wearing the sweaters, and Maybe either which way.
It was earlier because she was like, "Well, have you been through this 10 times?" Because it was, I think it was before the amen part. Yeah.
I distinctly remember this. This is during the present part. It may have been before the sweaters, but she asked them what they want, and they all just like
scream.
They give the deadlights. They do the deadlight Pennywise thing where their eyes go white and their mouth goes white, and then their face
and they're
goes
just screaming at them.
And it's just like and the
guy's like, yeah, they hate being asked that.
it's again hilarious. But anyway, because again, we're starting to now get close to the end of the story, and you've already seen that the aliens don't know what Christmas is because they're like, "You want some eggnog? Do you want some mixed nuts? Do you want to decorate a tree, which is like a ficus?" And it's an uprooted ficus, which is random Christmas lights. And I'm just like, "Oh, that's not a Christmas tree, guys." Do we tell them?
According to Charlie Brown, if it has decorations on it, it's considered a Christmas tree, as long as you believe.
So anyway, you already know that these aliens don't actually know what they're doing, and they're just trying to pretty much get information on what makes Christmas important. And that's where something really nice happens, but also really heartbreaking. That's when Gabby opens up her second present. And she's like, I don't want to play this game anymore because how did you guys know about this doll?
Yeah.
Because she opens it and they reveal that it is a doll that she's wanted since she was a girl. But her family, her mom and dad did not celebrate Christmas. So her thing is, that's why she didn't want the guy to be alone because she's like,
she's been there.
Right. She's like,
I've been there alone on Christmas. And
I didn't, and at one point I didn't even celebrate it. So now that I'm an adult, I'm going to celebrate it every year and make sure that other people celebrate it and make sure that it's a good time.
Yeah.
And that's when the aliens do the creepiest thing.
Because they're deadpan.
And then just one of them just slowly smiles. And that's when the camera backs out of the 4x3, the boxes for the 4x3 go away, and then it recompresses to 16:9, and then you wake up with Gabby on the porch like she just fell asleep smoking her cigarette.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize, actually it's the next part that you realize when she walks in the house, when you realize the friends were never there in the first place.
Nope.
That as soon as she stepped on the property, she was part of the aliens game.
Yeah. Because when you check inside, the table that the friends were supposedly supposed to set up it's actually only fit for 2 people.
Only set for 2 people.
Yeah.
So at some point, but as soon as she stepped on the property, or as soon as she knocked on the door, she was part of the aliens game, whether she realized it or not.
Yeah.
And obviously she did not.
Yeah.
And obviously the aliens didn't wipe their memory because of course they still remember the friends coming over, but
and not to mention the aliens left them a card.
They did.
It was probably the most heartfelt ending for all of them because it was just a card that just said
thank you for sharing Christmas with us.
Yeah.
And like I said, and I didn't say this, but I did get some clips from the movie. No, I did mention that. I did mention that earlier. And I may be inserting some of the clips so you guys can see what we're talking about. And what is beautiful about the film to this point, and I'm talking about the entirety of all the creatures we're stirring, is that it does the exact opposite thing that normal horror movies do. Normal horror movies start you out with, okay, feel good. Oh my gosh, horror! And then it's a downer plunge from there. But all the creatures we're stirring does the exact opposite, where, oh my gosh, we're going to start you off with all this horrific, terrible stuff.
The funny part is, you don't even actually start from the bottom. You actually kind of start
halfway up.
Because the half to the half. Yeah. So a fourth of the way up, you're already up here because it's already kind of disturbing and weird.
Yeah, with the Velcro prison experiment style one, all the stockings were hung. like, that's already a horrific situation. And then you go into a slightly more horrific situation with Dash Away All. And that's when you start the decline into the more feel-good stuff. But even though all of the house is still terrifying because you're dealing with human mortality, and everybody already knows the story of
Scrooge.
of
the Christmas Carol.
Of the Christmas Carol. So, now, and then you start your descent into the more feel-good stuff.
Except for a Rose, such a clatter.
But even a Rose Such a Clatter
doesn't follow the same lines as the first two.
It's more comedic because of the editing style, because of what they did. It's more comedic, it's more feel good, and so by the time you get into In a Twinkling,
it's Evil Dead. Evil Dead 2 would also be considered a giallo, because Evil Dead 2 is honestly a comedic horror movie.
I can see that. But so by the time you get to the In a Twinkling, you're now feeling good, and most people at this case are mad at the film.
Yeah.
Because there's like, this is supposed to be a horror film. I'm not horrified. And I'm just like, wait for it.
To the end.
Wait for it, because this is when the rug gets just pulled out from underneath
this
of
is
you.
Where you realize you're on their rope the entire time.
This is where your wraparound comes full circle, because then the director comes back out and they get into the final play, which is And To All a Good Night. Now, another extremely interesting camera technique that they did was, at this point, you have been from the perspective of the couple that's dating, and you never see the audience and the stage simultaneously. But as soon as And To All a Good Night is announced, you finally pull back past the fourth wall.
Yeah.
You're now on the other side of the fourth wall, and you are now watching them instead of being in their shoes and experiencing.
You finally get the full camera. You get the full angle. You get behind their shoulder. Now you finally get to see audience and stage
At the same time. And this is the first time in this. That's the first time in this movie you have seen that camera perspective.
Yeah. So now you're at the point where you realize that this is now a story.
Right, exactly. That you are no longer part of the story. You are now an outside observer of what's is happening to these particular people. And that is usually the framework that you take when you are watching any type of film. You're always this outside observer. You're never an active participant. And that's one of the cool things about All the Creatures Are Stirring, is that you feel like an active participant sitting in the audience along with this couple.
Yeah.
And it's not until the very, very end where you feel like you are an outside participant. And it's super creepy, because when the play starts, they start exactly where the movie started, with the exact same dialogue.
The actors on the stage.
It's now the actors on stage
are pantomiming everything that they did from the very beginning.
With their deadpan. And mind you, these actors are deadpan, and they are super monotone in their delivery. It's so creepy.
To make it even more terrifying, the entire audience is gone. The creepy guy is back, and the guy on the date left because his stomach was getting too upset. Mm-hmm. So now she is stuck in this theater, watching not only the guy who's been watching her, but seeing every event that has ever happened between her and him play out before their eyes, even though they just happened.
Even though they just happened, and then the guy gets up and goes to the bathroom. And this is where it gets creepy, because what's going on stage, again, we've already seen the beginning of the date play out, the start of the first play out.
The intermission.
And now they're to the point where the guy's in the bathroom on his phone, which is now happening in real time.
Yeah.
So this is real time, that, he's in the bathroom and the guy on stage is in the bathroom on the phone, and giving this guy's conversation verbatim. And it is the creepiest thing, because the guy, in the bathroom, apparently the guy saying, well, I can't do it tonight, and I wanted to do it tonight, but I have to feed. Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
And then he hangs up the phone.
And then walks back. And
no, he doesn't walk back yet, because on the stage, you see him walk back, sit down next to the girl.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. The guy on stage walks back, sits next to the girl, and is like, oh. Wait a second. He's like, oh, is it over?
He's like, oh, is it over?
Well, are you hungry?
Are you hungry? Because I'm starving. While staring this girl like dead in her freaking eyes.
Dead in her face. And
then
she's
as soon as that happens, the stage cuts to black. And you know what happens?
Guy comes back.
Sits down next to her.
Yep, sits down next to her. And repeats the
exact same lines. But with this time with a little twist. Because when he's staring at her, and then she turns away, his face.
Oh no, she doesn't even look at him. She continued staring the entire time. She looked forward the entire time.
When the
guy came back, she was still looking forward.
When the guy came back, she does end up staring at him, but then she eventually turns back towards the stage. When you go back and rewatch it, you'll see that she does stare at him just like they do on stage, and then she turns away. When she turns away, this dude's face, horrifying. Like, his eyes go black, he does the O mouth, and like he's got needles for teeth,
like,
and it's just like
it looks like pure static inside of his mouth. Like, not like TV static, like the thin line of white, kind of all black but thin white line static. It's terrifying.
And I don't know if this guy is like a demon or if he's like a zombie. I'm
assuming some sort of wraith of a siren, something like that.
Either which way, he needs to feed, but he doesn't necessarily want to feed on this girl because apparently he really likes her. Something like that. And then you cut to the old guy who's staring at this whole thing go down. He breaks out into the most creepy maniacal laughter before his face goes deadpan, and that's how the movie ends. Yeah, exactly.
And it wasn't actually that fast. It's
no, it's a slow laugh.
It was a slow. I was like, and that was probably the best way to do that.
Oh yeah.
Putting you at the middle of the movie to already give it the creep factor gave you the scale of what you're going through. But because they dwindled it down, it subverts your expectations.
And then the rug is just...
Yeah, it kind of makes you forget that, yeah, you're watching a horror movie, but since it's gotten this silly, I'm only going to expect silly things. And at this end, if you've watched this movie all the way to the end, that's where tricked you. You've been on our leash the entire time.
Yep,
we took you on the left field while we were already still going straight. And by the time you caught back up with us, boom.
Yep. And then, of course, being the nerds that we are, we did watch the credits, and there was one thing in the credits that stood out to us that we have not had answered yet, and maybe one of the McKendrys can answer this for us. You know, if you guys end up seeing this video, which would be really cool. I doubt it, but it'd be really cool. We want to know what Elf TV is.
Yeah.
Because that is the only thing that is not explained is what Elf TV is. Was it a short that got cut out? Was it something that was a part of a part of
All Through the House?
All Through the House. Like what was it? I want to know. I want to know what Elf TV is. It's
even weirder because it has its own set of cast on it.
It does. It does have its own set of cast.
But it was never shown. So it was like, what?
Yeah.
But another really amazing thing about this movie that I'm pretty sure nobody who reviewed this movie even noticed is that the lighting for this movie, when it came to their lighting choices, was strictly Christmas themed, and everything had the most appropriate lighting put to it because it was all red and green.
But there was a reason why there was red and green. Like in the first one, it was green because, as we touched on, the exit signs were green.
In the second one, it was red inside the van because honestly, the van itself was already decored in red.
Exactly.
The curtains in the back were red. The inside of the carpet when the guy finally rummages through is red. So it already gave off the red.
And then all through the house, obviously the Christmas lights on the outside of this guy's house, as we already talked about, were flashing green and red.
Even in the intermission when she goes to talk to the girl,
holding that green apple,
the green apple, red popcorn, the whole back section of that booth is green and red.
And then in A Rose Such a Clatter, Rudolph, red nose, all the red Giago washes.
Yeah.
And then in A Twinkling,
it's the best subtle notice. On the tree, when it's panning out, there's a one light bulb at the very bottom of the tree that is green that cuts out and then turns back on.
And again, I don't know if that was intentional, but looking at what these filmmakers had done, I bet it was intentional.
It feels like intentional because it wasn't a shortage kind of cutout where it would have cut out and then cut immediately back on. It faded out and then faded back in, and it was the only green light on the entire tree to fade out.
Very true. Very, very true. But But yeah, that was all the creatures were stirring. Phenomenal film. So at this point, like I said, every movie that I end up reviewing, we will give a Paw rating, and it's going to be out of 5.
Yeah.
So, what do you rate this film? And then I will give, since you're the guest, I'll let you go first.
I have to give it a 3.7. 4, I would love to give it a 4, but there's just tiny little minute things, and 4 is on that line of it's really good, and there are small minute things, but they're minute things that you can easily pass by, and you can be like, whatever. But the 3.7 sits because the minute things that were in there are things that you can pass by, but they're not something you can ignore. Like how we talked about with the sound, with the vibrating in the hand, sound like it was on the table.
On the table, yeah.
It's not something you can really just pass on by. And there's just a couple decisions the characters do, a couple of the sceneries where just kind of things where you're like, not really. Like I said, the guy with the van is still one of my biggest things.
No, I get you, yeah.
The 3.7 definitely earned because it's not a 3.5 because it's in a black box theater. And when you look at all the scenery choices, all the set choices, they're all claustrophobic as the
black box theater
it was. And even with the open street lights in the open street, that even felt claustrophobic because a lot of the camera focus was close up on the car. But
also, when you think about it, at the end, when you give that very constrained, you have to stay within this circle. You have to stay within this magic circle.
The story even makes it more constrained. So a lot of the camera focus was close up on the car. You never got good wide view shots of the parking lot, and if you did,
when you did, it was the drone shots.
You got the drone shots. That I'm talking about, like when the guy's walking, and whatnot. Gotcha. The actual during the story part before we get to the full exposition, you don't get those huge shots, and when you do, they're either blurred out, so your focus is drawn more towards the center, or it's focused on the already locked car.
Fair enough. I'll give you that. So 3.7.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that. For me, I really, really want to give this a 4-paw review, but I have to agree with you and give it a 3.7 because of what you just touched on. There were some audio guffaws that, even though they can be forgiven, they can be overlooked, and most people, if you're not a filmmaker or you're not a film aficionado, it's stuff that will go right over your head. And so for most general audiences, right over their head. And so, but at the same time, I have to applaud them for the filmmaking choices they made. They committed to a vision, and you can see their love, you can see their passion for what they do, you can see their history and their knowledge of the horror genre come through. And so, like, a lot of people will rate this 3 stars, or they'll
3 stars. It'd be
or they'll give it 2 stars.
3 out of 10, maybe. That's what most people have been reviewing.
Most
out of 5, it's like
most
1.5.
Yeah, most people have been lambasting this film, but out of our 5-paw rating, I would definitely give it like a 3.7. It is
close to being a 4, but it does not deserve anything.
It does not deserve anything that low. It's not quite a 5. It's not quite a 4. It's just on the cusp. It is on the cusp of being a 4. If some of those little guffaws had been worked out, I would definitely have given it a higher. It definitely would have given it a 4. But it is very, very close to being a 4-paw. There we go. 4-paw reviewed film, but it is a film that I highly recommend checking out. If you like horror anthologies, if you like Christmas themed horror movies, if you like horror movies in general, this is a great watch. I know that a lot of the critics have lambasted this movie, both on in written form as well as in video form, but I'm here to say this is a good film.
It's a good
from
film.
A technical standpoint as well as from a story standpoint. This is a good film. A lot of people are I feel like are nitpicking because they've gotten used to the way that Hollywood does filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you have to realize, one, this was a low-budget film. It doesn't feel like a low-budget film.
No, it really doesn't.
But this was a low-budget film. And then on top of that, you have to understand what the vision of the directors were. And if you are going into this expecting it to be a regular Hollywood anthology, a regular Hollywood film, if you're mad that there are not different directors for each segment, you don't understand the vision of this film, and you should educate.
Rewatch it with the director's cut.
Rewatch it with the director's commentary, but also rewatch it taking off the blinders of this is what a Hollywood film is supposed to be. Come into this expecting it to be an artistic film with artistic choices that are purposely made because that is the way the story is supposed to be told.
Like I said,
and if you come into it with that lens, you will appreciate this film so much more than what the critics are saying.
Like I said,
good
everybody
film.
like we said, everybody praised the stalking. Dash Away All.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I think people only like it because people are
it's a creature feature.
Commercialized to seeing monsters in a horror film, and once the monster's shown, it's like. Now, it feels like it gives the people that piece of candy that they're happy about.
Right.
Like, a good horror film usually hides their monsters.
It grabs you by the gonads. Like, I'm sorry, Hereditary. Hereditary was such a slow burn, but it had you by the gonads. That is what this film does. Like, granted, it starts out at a high point, and then the horror, like, feels like it decreases, but I'm just like, it is a story that needs to be told that way in order for that rug to be pulled out from underneath you. Because when you go to a theater production, a black box theater production, generally you will start off with the harder to digest pieces so that the final piece is something that's lighthearted and happy so that you leave the theater feeling happy. You leave the theater feeling satisfied and fulfilled, because like you don't want to leave the theater with a sour taste in your mouth, like unless like, and even when we watch horror films, like let's use Saw for example, like Jigsaw, yes, it was a horrific thing that we just watched, but you left with a sense of victory because oh my gosh, so and so was found out. I'm not going to spoil that film because I do eventually want to review it here, but because of how that film ended and some of the other Saw films ended, yeah, you're jarred. Like, and most people have seen the first Saw film. They know how that ends.
Yeah.
And like, you are jarred, but at the same time, you're left feeling satisfied. And you're left feeling with that feeling of wanting more. And I think that is exactly what All the Creatures Were Stirring achieves, because it gives you two endings, really.
Yeah.
It gives you that feel-good, happy, joy ending at the end of In a Twinkling, but it also gives you that feeling of wanting more, because, when the wraparound segment wraps up, it's left very ambiguous, and you want to know, what is the boyfriend? Or what is this guy?
What happened?
But it leaves you on that cliffhanger, and it's beautiful. It's beautifully done.
Yeah.
So, highly recommend this film. Definitely check it out. Like I said at the beginning, it is available on Amazon Prime. It is available with a subscription to Shudder. This video is not sponsored. I want to stress that. I'm not even to the point at being monetized yet, but you all may also get lucky and find, like I said, a copy lying around your local Walmart in the bargain bin, or if you really can't find it at Walmart, but you do want like all those DVD extras I was talking about, I'm almost positive you can find either on like Amazon or eBay the physical media version of this movie. But it does receive a 3.7. But I can't really do that. But it receives a 3 point. I guess I don't know.
You do the 3. I'll do the 7. Yeah, I got hands.
3.7.
Whatever way that's going
on the paw scale. And so it is a good pawed film.
Yeah,
we highly recommend this.
Movie.
And yeah. So now that we have gotten through the review of the film, I will say that this was a ton of fun to do. This video was a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but I really enjoyed doing this. I've been putting off doing this content for a while because I've been so scared of what the audience response is going to be, because I'm just like, this is something that's so different that you don't see furry YouTubers do, but I'm glad I did this. It feels like a weight has been lifted off of my chest, and I'm really excited to do more film reviews in fursuit. I'm really excited to bring non-furs into the world of furries, but I'm also really excited to bring furries into the world of film, and to talk about something passionately that I feel strongly about, because a lot of, like I said at the beginning, you see a lot of furry YouTubers making the same content, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stand out and be different, and having finally done this, I feel like I can breathe a breath of fresh air, and I feel like I'm excited for my YouTube channel again, which feels really good. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this very first edition of Furries Review Films. There's a working title. It's a working title, but I'll come up with something. I appreciate you guys so much. I do, again, appreciate Kaz for joining me on this review. You will definitely be seeing him again for future reviews. There will be some reviews, like I said, I will do by myself, and other reviews that I will have Kaz join me, because, like I said, he is a film aficionado just like me, and it's a lot more fun to do these with somebody else, but also it'll be really fun to just sit down on my own and rant about films that I love. So his information will be down in the description, per usual. Like, as you guys know, all links will be in the description down below. I will leave links to the Amazon page as well as the Shudder page. Even though I don't have a subscription to Shudder, I will leave links down there, so that if you guys want to check this film out, you can. So again, if you guys enjoyed this content, please hit that subscribe button, as well as the little bell notification icon right next to it, so you can be notified when new videos are posted, and hit the bell notification icon that says all. Also, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of this new thing that I'm doing here on the channel. Let me know what you think, and also what films you want to see me cover next. I do read every single comment. I may not have a chance to respond to all of them, but I do appreciate all of them to the bottom of my heart. And if you like this, leave a thumbs up. But finally, last thing I want to encourage you guys to do is hit that share button. Like, share it with a fellow furry, share it with a fellow film lover, film buff, share it with somebody that you think would enjoy this movie, which, again, we highly recommend, that nobody else highly recommends, but we do. So yeah, if any of those check boxes are checked, share that video. Yeah. And again, Kaz, thank you so much for joining me.
Nope, not a problem. Can't wait to be back for more horror movies.
And on that note, you guys keep rocking on, being awesome. Strypz the lion is out, and Kaz the cat is out. Peace.